Congratulations to Michael R. for winning the empty weight contest. His guess was 810.6 pounds. The actual empty weight that I have at this point, with weighing the airplane and everything that I have left to go on it, is 811.3 pounds. Now the actual weight and balance that's done for the CG purposes, I may come out with a little variation there, but I think that's about as close as we can get at this point. And that's what the contest was for. So I appreciate you guys all putting in your guesses. We had a wild range from 390 something pounds up to 1,300 and something pounds. So there's a huge variation when it came to the guesses. I also want to mention Harlan Payne guessed the same as well at 810.6 pounds, but Michael beat you to it, so Michael's the winner. So Michael, if you're listening and you're watching this episode, please either contact me at the phone number at the end of the video, or you can email me at bowenaero@yahoo.com. And I will get the t-shirt and hat sent out to you. And I appreciate you guys all participating in that contest, and I hope to do more stuff like that in the future. As I get some more stuff from Behringer, we'll send that out as well with some competitions like that. So thanks for participating. $811.3 pounds. I am really, really happy with that, guys. I know if you've all been watching the series from the beginning, I've mentioned several times that 800 pounds was my goal weight. So to be within 11 pounds of that, I'm really, really happy with that. I would have been happy with anything under 850. So I'll actually be under 850 with the big wings on it, because those big wings are going to add somewhere around almost 40 pounds. It's fairly negligible weight though, because you're adding so much more lift. So I think I'll still be under 850 with the big wings on there and the slats. So that'll be pretty cool. We did weigh these wings. So the wings with the flaperons on the standard wing were right about 82 pounds. And the wings with the slats and flaperons on the big wings were 102 pounds. So they're about 20 pounds more per wing. And those slats are actually a lot of that. So I think they're 3 pounds per section, and there's 6 sections, so that's 18 pounds right there. So another 22 pounds, so another 11 pounds of weight per wing. So yeah, it's a noticeable increase, but I think it's definitely well worth it, because you're getting so much more wing area, much more lift. So, but with this setup, 811.3, let's compare that to a couple things. The factory says you can build them with an empty weight of 750 pounds. I disagree with that. Not this way. You're not going to build a Stoll version for that. If there are guys out there that have Shock Monster landing gear and 29-inch bush wheels on their plane, and you're under 800 pounds, put it in the comments, because good job. 750 pounds is probably doable if you're going no autopilot, bare bones panel, bare bones interior, and small tires. And small tail wheel. That's really the only way I see you getting there. Because there's not really anything I can think of in this plane other than the autopilot, the extended baggage, and the interior. I mean, there's not that much weight in the interior either, but those are the only places where you could really skimp anymore. What I've done with the carbon fiber has saved me over 21 pounds over the factory version of the fiberglass cowling, the PVC wing strut fairings, just stuff like that. All those little things I put in there. Some of it didn't change much, like the floorboards saved you a .5 pound there. It was a 0.7 under the seat. The baggage I saved about .5 pound there over my original wood extension. So overall, what I've done, the biggest carbon fiber savings was in the cowling and these wing strut fairings that we're going to be getting soon that we've weighed. So those are factored in, but they're saving a ton of weight too. But that cowling is really been a huge project, but it's very worthwhile, and here's why. The 750-pound Kitfox would definitely have a Rotax on it. So how does the Rotax engine weight compare to the Yamaha engine weight, compare to the Continental engine weight, or a Lycoming engine weight? So to compare, you know, their estimation at 750 pounds would probably be the lightest Kitfox you could build in a 5-7. My Model 5 with a Lycoming engine on it was 952 pounds or 53 pounds with these same 29-inch tires on it. So I'm almost or just over 140 pounds lighter than my previous Kitfox. And that's by going from the Lycoming to the Yamaha and being really weight conscious while building it. Carbon fiber, not putting stuff in where you don't need it. So that being said, if you look at a Continental 0200, it's going to be lighter than the Lycoming. You're still going to be right around a 900 maybe high 800s if you do a really clean job on it. The bigger traditional aircraft engines, you're going to be heavier. The 915, you're going to be heavier. I don't know anyone I don't have a weight on anyone who's put a 915 on with a standard wing. So you got to factor that in, that the STIs are typically, I think they add 40 pounds also by going to that wing. So they say from the factory a 915 install on an STI setup is right around 900 pounds. We're going to have comparable horsepower to that at 811 pounds. So I find that to be a huge victory. Now, we don't have the turbo, so we are going to drop off a little performance at altitude, and so we'll see. If you add the turbo version to this, like let's say you're going to go to Edge Performance and get their APEX, it's additionally 25 to 30 pounds firewall forward. So you have to compensate for that. That's going to move your CG farther forward. You're probably going to want to plan for that prior to doing that install by putting your battery further back or whatever you're going to do there to compensate. Heavier tail wheel, whatever. But if you put that much more weight forward, it's going to change the characteristics of the plane. My goal with this was to make it as similar to a 912 UOS install as possible. So the Yamahas are typically somewhere between 10 and 15 pounds heavier firewall forward on the install than a standard 912 UOS from Kitfox. I saved 11 pounds in the cowling. So right there I'm down to, let's say, a 15-pound difference between the Yamaha and the 912. By saving 11 pounds on the cowling, I'm within 4 pounds. We shaved 2 pounds off a standard Yamaha install on the header. We meaning Ken Brown did that. And then my airbox is lighter than most typical airbox installs on the 912. How much lighter, I don't know. Let's say a pound. That gets me to within 1 pound of a 912 US weight. So I centered the weight of the engine the same as the center of the weight of the engine on the 912. So the CG should be exactly the same. The firewall forward is pretty much the same. I just have a ton more horsepower. So I'm going to be happier with this, what's coming together with this setup. It's light and it's powerful. And that's what my goal was versus the Lycoming install. There are advantages there. It was powerful at 125 horsepower, but it was heavy. It was nose heavy. It was a heavy airplane. It was a great one-man airplane, and that's the way I flew it. That's the way I went camping. I never took 2 people camping. If I had my stuff on board and full fuel, it was just me. This one I'll be able to go 2 200-pounders, full fuel, and as much baggage as we can put in there, and we probably won't hit our gross weight of 1550. Got a 739.7 pound useful load and a 6-foot baggage compartment to deal with that. And I'm going to put a belly pod on it because I don't think I'll be able to fit enough. You're limited at 150 pounds in the baggage, 200 pounders in the seat, and 27 gallons of fuel. I could run the math on that real quick, but I'm not sure you can hit 750 pounds with all that. So a belly pod might be necessary. I might be too light to hit gross weight. We'll see. But I think really overall I'm real happy with it. If you guys have Kitfoxes and you want to put in the comments what your engine setup is, what your landing gear setup, what tires you're running, what your empty weight is, I'd love to hear. Love to compare, see how I did. All right, guys, so I'm putting these Flaperon brackets on, and I want to point something out. So in the directions, it calls for using the 95005 stainless steel, which is a 1/8 by 3/8 rivet. And then they call for a different rivet on this bottom section. And what they actually want you to do is drill all the way through so that the pop rivet actually will show on the bottom of the, get to focus there, on the bottom underneath the bracket. Obviously I don't want that. So I've tried several different methods and actually had to drill some out on the other wing. But what I found is that the 95003, which is only a 3/16 length of the 1/8, like this, will actually pop in there. And if you drill the hole and put your finger underneath while you're drilling the hole till you can feel the end of the drill bit on the fabric. Be careful not to go through the fabric. But you drill the hole all the way through so that when you push the rivet down, it actually pushes down, the head of it will actually push down on the fabric. And then you can pull the rivet up through there, and like you can see on this one, you just have a little bump right there instead of having the rivet stick through. So much better option. I don't really even think you need a rivet in this position because it's so strong without it, but that's what I ended up doing, is using these shorter rivets instead of a much longer one to go all the way through. And I just want to make note of that for people who are doing this. It's definitely a question that you may come up with. So use the 95003 1/8 by 3/16 rivet on that last hole. All right, guys, today I'm going to really do the last bit of fabricating on the project. So I need to finish making the new mounting brackets for the radiator's new position. And then along with that, I picked up a Borla muffler, and I'm going to be figuring out the best way to put that on. One of the reasons I picked this one is because of the shape. It's going to run horizontally across the fuselage, so it's kind of got a bit of an airfoil shape to it. So it should be lower drag. I'm not sure how quiet it's going to be. It is stainless, weighs about 8 pounds, which is pretty comparable with the GSXR muffler. So because I'm not sure if it's going to be quiet enough, what I plan on doing is using a V-band clamp to connect that to the header pipe. So let me show you a little bit here about how this is all going to work. So this elbow is going to go into the header and will come down to the muffler. And so on this end of it, I'm going to put one of these V-band ends, which is, this one pops off easier. It's just a little ring that's going to be welded on, so that'll go on one end, and then the other end of that will go on the muffler. And there's a groove in one and a ridge in the other, so those are machined together. And then this clamp goes over the top of it. And those of you guys that have done, you know, muffler work or exhaust system work, you know about this, but I haven't done any. So this is all kind of new to me. There's all kinds of different ways to connect the muffler system, and a lot of them are hokey, you know, using the U-bolt clamps. There's also a band clamp. None of those are going to be permanent enough. This, however, is, because it's really a welded seam, and then you're just holding that together with this V-band, which can't come undone. You know, I guess if you undid the bolt and it got loose on you, but that's definitely something you're going to see on pre-flight as you're checking your airplane out. So the reason I'm doing it that way is so that I can unbolt that, take the muffler off, try a different muffler, put it on from that elbow down, so I don't have to keep cutting and welding if I want to change out the muffler. So that's the plan. I've got 4 sets of these, so I could really try quite a few different mufflers. I'll probably do a test weld because my stainless welding this is again something new to me. never welded stainless. I've had a lot of advice on what to do. I got a setup so I can back purge all these so that there's argon on the inside, and it'll be covered with tin foil while I weld it, so that the back side of that weld is also shielded. I got a new Furic 15 or 12 or something for my cup for my welder, and so a lot of stuff to practice with. Hopefully they come out decent. I've heard the trick is to do little bits, maybe 1-inch runs at a time, which this is round, so I have to do that anyways. So anyway, that's what I'm working on right now. I cut these off of this elbow. I've got one more cut to do to get this to the length I need it to be coming out of the header. I think I've planned on having this be a practice one. This one's going to go in the muffler, and then I've also got to weld one of those on the end of this, and that will be for real because these are about 40 bucks a piece for these elbows. Okay, so a little bit of progress today. I ran out of material making these straps come down to hold the radiator, but I came off the engine mount up here down to the front of the radiator. Then I made this piece that comes back. It's going to fasten to the firewall, and that piece will be on both sides. And that's the one I ended up bending the wrong way, and then I tried to fix it and it broke because I fatigued it. So got to get some more stainless strap. This one will go right here, and we'll have the same thing coming out to the firewall there. I'll give the support. And then depending on whether or not it still flexes at all, I can still do that one that comes off and fastens to the back of it here, off of the engine mount. Good morning. So looks like the best days I have to paint are today and tomorrow. So I'm right in the middle of doing some exhaust work and the muffler mount, or I mean the radiator mount. So I'm going to stop because I'll have some windy, rainy days coming up next weekend, so I'll get a chance to work on that. So today I'm going to go ahead and get the sanding done, get the booth up, get the first coat of aerosane on the metal parts. So I'll set up the time lapse, and you guys can follow along as I finish up what should be the second to last day of painting. Get all those parts done, and then the only remaining part that needs to be painted will be the cowling, which I won't be able to get to today because there's more body work to do to fit the new radiator position. Alright guys, here I'm just prepping the surfaces of the flaperons for paint to receive the aerosane, the black coats. I'm also pulling other parts out. I got the wing tips and then some of the other metal pieces that go on the door closeouts, and the strake pieces for the turtle deck, cowling for the tail. Got all those pieces situated and ready to go in the paint booth. Cleaned them all down, blew the paint booth up, put everything inside to dry, and I did have to prime those strakes, and then I got the paint ready to go ahead and spray. Here's what we got going on with the paint today. In the booth right now, I've got the strakes that go on the turtle deck. They need to get the primer. So epoxy primer, that's a 3-to-1 with the catalyst, and then another 3-to-1 reducer. And that's also the same thing with the urethane. So here's the urethane. We're going to start doing coats of urethane. That's 3 parts paint to 1 part catalyst, and then we're going to go 3 parts paint and catalyst mixed to 1 part reducer, and then 4 parts of that to 1 part flattener. So right now I've got this catalyst and paint mixed up. It's activating, takes 20 minutes, it's about done. So next I need to go ahead and mix in reducer, and then from there the flattener. So the urethane's first time using it. I'm going to start with the small parts, see how that goes, and then I'm going to get into doing the flaperons. I'll do one side of the flaperons today, one side of the rest of the parts. Some of them only need one side, like the tail fairings will be done after today. And then the butt rib closeouts, a little piece of aluminum that goes right here. That's going to be both sides, so I'll do one side today, flaperons one side today, other side tomorrow. Should be able to get all of the wingtip done if they're sitting up on edge. So Anyway, that's what I got going on. More paint. I don't think I'll really show much in the paint booth because it's, you know, booths up, same thing as before as far as the spraying. Just a little bit different mix procedure on these primers and the urethane paint. All right, guys, so the Flaperons just came out of the paint booth. They're looking nice and shiny. They probably look real good from this distance. If you get up close, there are some flaws, some little fish eyes that formed. This paint is a little bit tricky to work with. It's the urethane, and I tried a couple different variations of thinning it, and I actually got a better coverage on this with a little bit thinner mix, more than the, I think it's 3 or 4 to 1 that they call for. I went a little bit more than that on the thinner, and it got me a much glossier finish than the other side of them. So those came out looking pretty good. The wingtips didn't come out as good. They're a little orange peely. And that was because of the thicker, that was one of the thicker variants of the paint. But I did go ahead and do about 4, almost 5 coats on them. So there's good thickness there that I can go ahead and wet sand it and try to buff out some of that roughness on that finish there. These other wingtips for the big wing, they came out nice and glossy. They look good. You can still kind of see some of the wood grain, but they came out looking good. These are the strakes. These are the parts I needed right here to finish up the turtle deck. And then these are the butt rib closeouts, which I also need to go ahead and finish that up and get the doors mounted. So parts that I needed, the other ones I painted along with this batch are the cowling pieces for the tail. They're, I got the other set on the other side. Those came out okay. Again, they'll probably need a wet sand and a buff, but not too bad. And yeah, so that was 2 days worth in the paint booth to come up with all the black stuff with the urethane. And that really leaves me about 1 more session in the paint booth before I'm done. So the next session will be the cowling and anything else I find that I need to finish up. This is what's left to do on the airplane. I think I've got everything up here that I can think of right now. I'm sure there'll be a couple things that pop up. So to keep this as short as possible, because I've been standing here talking you know, about the contest and everything. So let's get this a rundown real quick. What's left to do and how I'm gonna attack it tomorrow. So right after get-go, I gotta finish that cowling. I need to take the front piece. I still need to split it into 2 and do all the cam locks on the front half with the backing carbon fiber. So there's a little carbon fiber work to do there. There's a lot of sanding still to do before it's ready for paint, and then it needs to be painted. So the cowl still has quite a bit of work. It's probably the most time-consuming thing I still have left to do. It still is being pushed off because I've talked to my inspector that's going to do the airworthiness inspection, and he says I don't have to have that done to do the inspection. It will fly without a cowling. I just probably won't do that because I want it to be a complete plane. Okay, the next big project that I'm in the middle of, it's all mocked up, got to finish it, is the muffler. There's a couple things I'm still trying to figure out there as far as the way the muffler is going to mount, as far as distributing the weight of it so I don't crack the header or any of the welds. Got to bleed the brakes, just need some fluid, and that won't take too long. The Behringers are a dream to bleed. It's real easy. So triangle windows need to go in. Before I do those, I need to paint the inside of the windowsill because that didn't get painted. I had it taped off during paint. So there's a bright white with some poly brush overspray and stuff in there. So I need to hand paint those just to black out the trim where the window will go in. Get that painted, let it dry, then we'll cut those, get those mounted. The landing lights need to be mounted in the wingtips along with the nav and strobe lights. And then there's one wire run out to those that I'm not happy with. Where the plug ended up was too short. As I was running shy on wire, I now have more wire, so I'm going to redo that. That'll take some time, unfortunately. Jury struts, I can put those on at any point, but what I'd like to do is streamline those with a little carbon fiber work. So I've got an idea on that will probably be a little time consuming, but it's not crucial. I don't need to do that to fly it. I can definitely pull the jury struts off later and do it later, so that's kind of down there on the back burner of priority. Same thing with the lift struts for the horizontal stabilizer. The prop install, will be straightforward. When it's time to go on, we bolt it on, set the pitch, put the spinner on. Shouldn't be a big deal. The GPS mount, or GPS antenna mount on the glare shield, I talked about that when I did the glare shield. In that little gap, I'm going to make a little bracket, fills that gap with a little antenna. That'll take a little fabricating, a little bit of time, we'll get that done. Once all that's done, windshield can go on permanently. We'll put the seal in, screw it all down, and once that's on, I can do the wing root windshield fairing, which will be laid up in carbon, of course. And it's down here, but the turtle deck, when I finish the turtle deck, the strakes are now painted. That was the part I was waiting on that. They're now dry. I need to cut those to the new shape for the hinged turtle deck. We cut those a little bit. So we'll cut those, get those mounted up on there, finish that up. Once that's done, I'll pull that off, and we'll fold the wings, hook up the fuel lines, put in the sight gauges and the placarding for the fuel level, and also the drains for the fuel tank. The push drains need to go in. When we're doing the carbon fiber work for the cowling, I'm also going to do the layups for the console kick panel. So I'm going to make those out of carbon. I'll have the resin mixed up. I'll just have those on the side. We'll lay those up, put them under vacuum. When they dry, we'll cut those to shape, get those installed. Install the flaperon. So unfortunately, the flaperon, the first side I painted them top side, then I flipped them and painted the bottom side. Top side didn't come out 100% like I wanted to. I had one really big hair get in there. I mean, I don't have any hair, so I don't know where it came from. But that had to be sanded down, and there's a couple other spots that I didn't like because I got some fisheye. And that happened because I used the recommended 2210 polyfiber cleaner. For whatever reason, I didn't let it dry long enough or whatever, but this aerothane does tend to fisheye. You have to have it really clean let it dry for days before you paint it. Go over it with a dry rag before you spray. That's about the only advice I give on that. So anyway, I gotta put one more coat on that. That'll happen when I paint the cowling. Excuse me. Yeah, once those get painted, then flaperons can get installed with the push-pull tubes and get all that set up, then all the controls will be done. I've got an antenna for the radio that I need to put 2 additional screws in. That'll be quick. Butt rib closeouts. So that was another part I had to paint before I could finish that. Those are paint, dried, ready to go on. I'll get to that. They go between the door sill and the butt rib. There's a gap there. They close that up. Once those are installed, I'm going to drill a hole, mount the outside air temperature in that same location. We'll get that done. Tail wheel, I'll get back to that. The gear legs need to clean up the brake line on that. Push to talk switches need to go in the stiff grips. And then labeling. I need to put in all the FAA mandated labeling. I got to do the experimental sticker, the big one in 3 inches across the turtle deck support. The passenger warning needs to go up on the panel, and I need to put the end numbers, and the aircraft make and model placard needs to go on. I think that's it, guys. I know that took a bit to run through, and it's probably a bit overwhelming to think that I need to do all that, but I've got a full week here. During the different spray applications, I was able to go ahead and get the radiator mounts done in their new location. So the radiator is now centered and much sturdier. So basically came down from the engine mount and then went back to the firewall. And it's a much sturdier setup. I'm going to run one more from the bottom engine mount down here to the bottom. I'm going to wait to do that. That's so I don't get this flex like this. That'll hold that rigid. I'm going to wait to do that until the muffler is final. Its final location is figured out, because I also have to figure out how to hang the muffler. Speaking of the muffler, I do my first stainless welds ever. Did a little bit of tack here and there, working on that stainless. I did a bunch of practice just to get up the nerve to tack up these. It came out okay for tacks. You need to back purge it to do the final welds, but I've got that set up with the V-band clamp. And then on this side, I went ahead and bought a whole stainless muffler kit. So I've got all kinds of bends, 180 degree, 45, 90s, and then 2 4-foot sections, all in 18 gauge stainless, 2-inch diameter, and they're flared on one end and not the other, so they fit together. And so I kind of laid up this long tailpipe, kind of just playing around with the idea of getting the sound completely behind you. I don't know that I'll do that. That was just something I was playing around with. More than likely, I'll probably start with just dumping it right here, like you would see on most planes, just right out of the cowl, just do a little dump and see how it sounds. The big complaint, I think, with the Yamaha is the sound. It's too loud. So that's one of the things that I want to try to take care of. Even at the cost of 5 or 6 horsepower, I'd like to have a quiet muffler system for everyday use. You can put straight pipes on it for racing. Who cares how loud it is during a race day? So anyway, that's the progress for today. All right, guys, to be continued as we continue to work through the whiteboard stuff. Thanks for watching. This was a long one. We're going to break this up. It's just going too long here. So I got a lot done this week. Stay tuned for the next episode that covers more of what we were able to cross off the board. Hit the subscribe button, like it if you like it, and leave a comment.